Welcome back. This is part 2 on subsistence. We are going to talk about food foraging societies, and part of this is going to be a review if you have viewed or listened to the SAN lesson. All right, so we're going to look at some characteristics of food foraging societies. Here, mobility, division of labor by gender, egalitarian social relations, food sharing, and small group size. And again, all of these elements apply to the San Juasi people that we covered previously, if you're taking my cultural anthropology or world cultures class. So mobility is needed because people are foraging from the land and they will, eat all of the resources there and have to move on, okay? But oftentimes, in today's world, food foraging societies are on in marginal ecosystems or areas of the earth where something like horticulture, pastoralism, or agriculture is not possible. So like the Kalahari Desert, for example, or the Arctic, we'll find people who are still using food foraging in those areas. But, okay, so kind of what I'm saying here is that the environment can be harsh, and also there's a problem with moving and spending too much energy on the move and to get something that is not going to be worth the calories. So like it says here on the lesson, for instance, the distance between a foraging group's food supply and fresh water must not be so great that more energy is required to obtain fresh water than can be obtained from food. So people are living in situations where every calorie counts, basically. So division of labor by gender. All societies have some type of division of labor by gender. It means that men do certain tasks and women do other tasks. I'm not really happy with this slide in general, so I need to rewrite this. But basically, in general, a food foraging society will have the men do most of the hunting and the women will do most of the gathering. All right, but that is not a hard and fast rule. In many foraging societies, women also hunt. And during times of scarcity, men will gather. So in general, this is the pattern, but don't put too much stock in this as a hard and fast rule. And again, I need to redo this slide, so in the future. All right, another aspect of food foraging societies is their egalitarianism. Egalitarianism is an important characteristic among many food foraging societies. In an egalitarian society, members will have about equal rank, okay? Not perfectly equal, but about equal rank, access to and power over basic resources. Age and sex are usually the only sources of important status differences. So in general, men might have more status or power in the society than women, and as you age, you gain more status and respect and power. But some of the key differences that in egalitarianism is that no one member will accumulate more goods than another, thus eliminating jealousy and potential conflict. So people don't own a lot, people don't inherit anything, so it would be very difficult to be born with a higher status by birth or to gain wealth over your lifetime. Birth and wealth are two things that in other societies would give people more power or status, and these things just don't exist in food foraging societies, or they're unlikely to. All right, sharing is an important part of a food foraging society. Since everybody's equal, everybody shares, and the survival of the group depends on everyone working together. Men and women will both share the fruits of their labor, meaning their meat or their things that they've gathered, such as plants and such plant foods. They each provide a different food resource that they continue to share with one another. Food sharing among members and other nearby groups can also provide the basis for creating and maintaining social allies and networks. Food foraging groups have limits on their populations due to the carrying capacities of the lands they inhabit. So each environment is going to have a certain amount of natural resources that people can survive on, and sometimes it's more and sometimes it's less. So groups might have to split, or groups may grow slightly, but in general, a small group size. So carrying capacity is the amount of people that the land can support with its available resources. Food foraging, limiting populations. We talked about this again with the sand people. Being mobile and having low body fat and also lots of breastfeeding can keep populations low because women don't ovulate as much and they have fewer children that are spaced further apart. This also contributes to small population and small group size. Okay, we are going to talk a little bit about food production. Moving on, so we just talked about food foraging societies and features of their society. All right, so something called the Neolithic Revolution, sometimes called transition, began about 11,000 to 9,000 years ago in different parts of the globe. It was a time of significant culture change associated with the early domestication of plants and animals and the settlement of permanent villages. This may have been the result of increased management of wild food sources and the development of simple hand tools for working the land coincided with this transition. So we don't know exactly, this is one of the big questions in archaeology. When, how, why did food production begin? How did people discover that they could control plants and animals in this way? Because it changed everything. It's a really important part of human prehistory. Another cause of this would be climate change was happening, the end of the Ice Age, or the end of the most recent glaciation of the Ice Age was occurring. So glaciers were receding, and also seasons were becoming more predictable. So people were able to probably notice and predict growth of plants and animals or herds as well, and then that helped them learn to control these aspects of these plants and animals. So there are three types of food production, and I often, in non-industrial societies. So we're not talking about industrial food production, we're just talking about non-industrial food production. And the three are pastoralism, horticulture, and agriculture. And I will talk more about all of these in the next two segments of this lesson. So please move on to part 3.